Hi, I'm here with Chris Penn. He's the VP of Marketing for Shift Communications out of Boston. And Chris is an expert on search engine optimization, among other things. And today we're going to talk about keyword research for small businesses, how you can get started, what to avoid, and the top 3 things you need to do to get your business website found online. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start out a little bit by talking about what exactly is keyword research.
That's a good place to start. So in search engine optimization, the goal is for us to be found by the words that people are going to use to inquire about our businesses. So my teacher, Mark Davis, owns a martial arts school in Boston, the Boston Martial Arts Center. And so logically, he wants to be found for words like Boston Martial Arts School in Boston, martial arts school near 02134, all these different terms that indicate relevance. He doesn't want to be found for a flower shop in Boston, and to some degree commercial intent, so that we could, because that's what really organic search and SEO is all about, is people asking a question of Google or Bing or whatever with commercial intent. Most people don't spend a lot of time just Googling things just for fun, like just typing in words just for fun. They're doing it with a purpose in mind. So when we're talking about keyword research, we're talking about finding the words and phrases that are relevant to our business and that will catch the people who have this intent. Like, I want to know more about how do I find a great domain name with GoDaddy? How do I find a martial arts school in Boston? How do I find a great public relations agency in Boston?
So Chris, what's the first thing you need to do if you own a small business and you want to get started with keyword research?
The first place to start really is actually, this will seem counterintuitive, but you'll go to Google's AdWords tool, adwords.google.com, and inside there, you don't have to pay any money. Inside there is a tool called Keyword Planner. What Keyword Planner does is it takes the paid search data that Google's collecting and allows you to see how popular those terms are for all kinds of search. So let's say you're a coffee shop in lovely San Diego, right? You would start in this tool with find more keywords, and you would type in logical things that would make commercial intent sense. So like San Diego coffee shop in San Diego, coffee shop in the Gaslamp district. Put in 5 or 10 words that you think are reasonable, intelligent descriptors of your business. Hit search, and what Google will do is it will attempt to put together all these other keywords that are related to this topics in a big table. You'll hit add to my plan, and you can download a large spreadsheet of these keywords. Sometimes it'll be 800 or 900 of them. Export that to a spreadsheet, Google Sheets, like Microsoft Excel, whatever, and sort it by volume. What you want to do is then prioritize, like these top terms that are the most searched. You want to have them be on the most important pages on your site. So again, if you're a San Diego coffee shop, if San Diego coffee shop turns out to be one of the most searched words, then you want to make sure that that's on your contact page or your directions page, so people can find your business, and that page will rank well for that term. And then the further down that list you go to little niche topics like, best espresso in San Diego, or most low-fat cappuccino in San Diego. Those you can have as part of blog posts or short-form content on your site. That's a great way to get started with this. Do that first big list poll, assign the important terms to your most important pages on your website, and then start creating content, if you have the time, around the lesser-known terms. One of the things that helps you do is that Google uses an artificial intelligence called RankBrain, and it tries to gather up everything on your website and figure out what is your website about. So if San Diego coffee shop is sort of one of your most important terms, but then you've got things like espresso recipes in San Diego and all this stuff, Google will associate that with all the other terms that are relevant about coffee shops in San Diego, and so your overall site will rank better based on all this content you have on it.
So you want to think like your customers.
You absolutely want to think like your customers. You want to think like a human being. One of the biggest mistakes that people make about SEO is assuming that you're writing for the machine. That was true 5 years ago when algorithms were less complex and stuff, but now that Google and Facebook and all of these companies are using legitimately hardcore artificial intelligence, they are trying to simulate a human being. So if you think like a human, you're probably going to do pretty well with the algorithms.
Great. You talked about one of the big mistakes is writing for a machine.
Mm-hmm.
What's another big mistake that newbies make when it comes to SEO?
when you create your content, one of the biggest mistakes to do is to phrase things in ways that are not natural language. There's an old joke. An SEO practitioner walks into a bar, tavern, pub, because they're trying to rank all these terms. And humans don't talk that way. As tools like IBM Watson and Google TensorFlow and RankBrain develop natural language understanding, they will are more easily able to detect when you're trying to game the system. Don't game the system. Do your research, figure out what content to create, but then write it in the way that humans speak, the humans that write and would recognize things. The other thing is, it used to be, and this is old knowledge that's no longer valid, it used to be you had to have a specific phrase and everything on the page was just about that phrase and nothing else, right? So you'd have coffee shop in San Diego, and that'd be your header title, coffee shop in San Diego, and then you have to use that phrase 5 times on the page, and that was all that page was about. We don't do that anymore because Google's artificial intelligence now understands coffee shop in San Diego and San Diego coffee shop are related. And so create content that is natural, that is intelligible to humans, and is not trying to target just that one keyword at the expense of everything else.
Great. So use Google Keyword Planner to get started, download that spreadsheet, create content based on the top ranking terms. What other tools besides Keyword Planner could a small business use for research?
So one of my favorite things to do is I use WordPress. I actually, my martial arts teacher's website runs on GoDaddy's managed WordPress because he doesn't have time to run a WordPress site. But there's a plugin for it called Yoast SEO that you plug into your WordPress site, and then it tells you, like, hey, this is the keyword phrase for your page, here's how you're using it, here's all the general factors on site that we think make a lot of sense for this page. Use that tool with your keyword list. Plan out your website. The worst thing you can possibly do is just kind of dive in, start making stuff, and not have a pre-ordered plan. So that's where that spreadsheet really comes in handy. You can do all your advanced prep work, and then you can more thoughtfully lay out that content with Yoast SEO, with WordPress, and with the keywords.
All right, so we've got in our toolbox Google Keyword Planner, Yoast SEO. Is there one more tool that you think may be useful for small businesses?
The most useful tool for figuring out keywords, believe it or not, is going to be social media, which is appropriate since we're at social media marketing world. And the reason why is that if you look at the replies that, say, your competitors get, questions that they get, if you use a site like Quora.com or Facebook, what language are other people using? Because you and I will probably have very different ways of describing the same thing. I might say latte, you might say, doppio with whatever, and all these different things. And so, by monitoring social media and the words other people use to talk to you and to your competitors, you can expand that keyword list with phrases that real people use, even if they're not necessarily picked up by Google. So I might say San Diego coffee shop. Somebody else might say, what's the best coffee shop near the gas lamp district, right? That's a fairly long search phrase. But if I understand that, I go, okay, like gas lamp coffee shop. Now Google's like, okay, well, this is related to this, but social media will give you the real words that humans use.
That's really helpful, Chris. Thank you. All right, let's wrap it up with your one best tip for keyword research. If you could only tell people one thing, what would it be?
If I can only tell people one thing, measure your keywords. Don't just throw them out there, but use these tools like AdWords Keyword Planner to measure the volume of those terms, and that will help you prioritize. If you just do stuff like I'm going to have a page for every single keyword I can think of, well, no, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of your effort, and it probably won't work. Measure, track your analytics very carefully.
Thanks, Chris. This is really helpful.
Thank you.